first of all, we discuss about or we can I will give introduction to RESTful web services. So, REST stand for representational state transfer. So, REST stand for representational representational state transfer, and it is developed by Roy Thomas Fielding, who also developed by HTTP. The main goal of RESTful web services is to make web services more effective. RESTful web services try to define services using the different concepts that are already present in HTTP. So REST is a architectural approach. So we can say REST is a architectural approach, and it does not define standard message exchange format. We can build REST services with both XML format and JSON format also. So JSON is a more popular format with the REST. The key abstraction is the resource in REST. A resource can be anything. It can be accessed through a uniform resource identifier, that is URL. This is also important part, that is URL. For example, the resource has a representation like XML, HTML, and JSON. The current state captured by the representational resource. When we request a resource, we provide the representation of the resources. Or the important method of HTTP are, let's discuss. Or we have right here important method of HTTP are: number one, get method. It reads a resource. Second one, put method. It update an existing resource. Post method, it creates a new resource and delete so this is delete. Another one, patch and option, etc. So if you want to perform this action in corresponding application, then we can see one example also. So let's start our Spring Boot application. This is the STS. So I have already created one simple application in Spring Boot. So just go through here and just create one controller class there in package controller. because we want to perform different operation or different tasks or experiment using this get, post, patch, put, delete, http methods. So create one class that is user controller. Just finish it. This is the user controller, and now we discuss simple annotation or important annotation in using Spring Boot application. So here is in ChatGPT. Here is a simple application, and we check here. Just copy this code and paste this in user controller, and one by one we experiment all these annotations here now. So here is a simple application in Spring Boot. Just save it. So our first annotation is REST controller. So let's discuss REST controller. At the rate REST controller. So at the rate REST controller, it is the Spring Boot app, using Spring Boot. It is used to create RESTful web services, and it convenes an annotation. It's combination of controller and response body. In Spring MVC, there are two annotations like controller, at the rate controller, and at the rate response body. Response body. This is the two annotation in MVC. So this at the rate controller and at the rate response body combines. There is a one annotation, that is at the rate rest controller. So this is the some benefits of using at the rate rest controller. So it simplifies development. So when we use rest controller, so we know it simplifies development. It means it automatically convert response to JSON or XML format, eliminating the need to add at the rate or response body to each method. So there is a no need to each and every method at the rate response body. Just look at here. Suppose here we are directly annotated at the rate controller. So in that case, each and every method handle or we can say each and every method put one annotation, that is response body. So instead of this, commonly use address trace controller here. So another one important feature of this address trace controller is easy integration. So we can say easy integration. It integrates easily anywhere, or you can say top of the our class. It integrates easily with the front-end application also. And another one is important feature. It maps request data. It maps request data. It maps request data the defined request handler method. So the @rest controller annotation is a different from a controller and response body, and which is used to declare common web controller that can return HTTP responses. The controller annotation doesn't automatically add the response annotations to all methods, so you need to add it individually to return JSON or XML responses. So this is about REST controller and why combines controller and response body annotation in one REST controller. So let's go in our application, Spring Boot application. So this is all about REST controller, and just request mapping is a nothing but a common annotation used here. So let's discuss about request mapping. @request mapping. So this is one another important annotation using in Spring Boot. So the @request mapping annotation is used to map request to controller method. All are controller methods, like we can say get all users, get user by ID, create user, update user, delete user. This is our all CRUD operation method, or you can say all HTTP method, or you can say RESTful API used in this scenario. So let's discuss. So at the rest mapping, it has various attributes to match by URL, HTTP method, request parameter, header, and media types. You can use it at the class level to express shared mapping, or at the method level to narrow down to specific endpoint mapping. So it is a class level to express share mapping. So you can just focus here, @rest mapping in double quote slash user. This is our fix, or you can say base URL for this controller, and then after that we can directly use in Postman also, or you can test directly Postman also. So and one more thing, let's discuss on @rest controller and @request mapping. So in case of @rest controller, the parameter value depicts the component name or bean name, whereas @request mapping, the value parameter used to specify the path. So both are used to different purpose. If you want to specify the uh, request URL path on controller, class uses @request mapping annotation with REST controller. So this is the @request controller and request mapping used in this particular application. So here just run this program, run as a Maven build. Each and every time we can run application using this command, that is clean space spring hyphen boot run. There is no need to test cases. Then now skip test and then run it. Okay, our application successfully run in Tomcat started on port 8080 HTTP, but the context path slash. Okay, then this is our HTTP methods, and each and every methods we can test on Postman. So let's start Postman. Just click on Postman tool and test one by one method, that is create, or we can say add user and all this type. So let's test first method, that is post mapping create user. So let's discuss on post mapping. At the rate post mapping. So post mapping is nothing but another one annotation used in uh, Springboot, especially this post mapping annotation is uh, used for mapping, or you can say map HTTP post request onto specified handler methods. At the rate request mapping, or you can say directly use at the rate post mapping also. It handles HTTP post request match with the given URL expression. So that it is in detail case, at the rate post mapping annotation in it is basically from in Spring MVC framework. Is a powerful tool for handling the HTTP post request in our RESTful web services. It maps specific URLs to handler method, allowing to receive and process data submitted through post request. The address post mapping annotation is a Spring annotation that is used to map HTTP post request onto specific handler method. It is a shortcut for address request mapping annotation with method like the you can see used like this address post mapping like that. So let's test our post mapping annotation or HTTP request here. So our HTTP colon this is our basic URL http colon slash slash localhost colon 8080 our default port, and this is the user this is the user's best URL for this controller, means each and every method. So just copy this URL, control C, and then paste it here. Or you can say let's talk to ChatGPT for create new user. Just type this URL, and this method is by defaultly post. Okay, copy and then paste it here in Postman. This is already given by and by default the post method, and in form data key is name and the value is, can say, John. Okay, it's John, name and value. So let's send this request. Okay, user created with id 1. So this is the perfectly got the response from this method. So uh, let's discuss about gate mapping also. Gate mapping, at the rate gate mapping. Gate mapping is an Springboot annotation form of the metadata that provides data about program. This annotation are used to provide um, getting data from method, or you can say showing in or testing in postman. Gate mapping annotation in Spring is a powerful for building RESTful web services. It maps HTTP GET requests to a specific handler method in Spring controller. With the help of the gate mapping annotation, we can easily define endpoints of the RESTful API and handle various HTTP requests. Gate mapping annotation is used for the mapping HTTP GET request onto specific handler methods. It is a composed annotation that acts as a shortcut for request mapping method equal to request method dot gate mapping. So let's run this gate mapping in test in this get, and let's take this slash id, that is we have created id that is 1. So slash 1 id, and then let's send this request. Okay, this is the id 1, there is a name John. So this is the get response, request and response. So this is about gate mapping and post mapping using we can say this is for normal user also, or get all the users. And post mapping, we handle post request to create new user, and put mapping, that another one is put mapping. Let's discuss on put mapping also. Direct put mapping. So this put HTTP method is used to modify update resources where the client sends the data from update the entire resources. It is used to set the entity information completely. Put is a similar to post in that we can create resources also, but it also it does so when there is a defined URL. Put overrides the entire entity if it is already exist, and create a new resource if it doesn't exist. So this is about put mapping. So let's check put mapping. It is also takes id and then update this particular user. So in this scenario, put mapping this particular URL and key and value. Okay, and response is like that. name, or we can say select put mapping name value, that is we can change x y z value, and let's send here. Okay, user updated with id 1. So this is last one, delete mapping, but before that we can get all users. So just check all the user, because we here created one user. Just type this simple url, or we can remove this and get mapping. Okay, this is the one, and our name is xyz. This is for get. And we can discuss here last one, delete mapping. We all know delete mapping, it handles delete request to remove a user by id, that is this is the particular id give to this particular url. So let's try there, /1, and this is delete mapping, and send. Okay, user deleted with id 1. Suppose if you want to get the user